All right, I guess I better unmute myself then. All right, welcome to our first meeting of 2022. Hopefully everybody had a nice holiday couple weekends here. I think I think our first presentation today will be from Stephanie.
I'm just going to kind of go over a quick CAB overview. Since we have some new folks that are joining us today, I wanted to make sure that I kind of set the stage since it is our first meeting of the year. We have some people that may not have been too involved in the past. So just kind of let everybody know and give everybody some equal footing on what Eastgate is, what the CAB is, what the responsibilities are. I'm not going to go too in depth. But I will switch the tab here just to kind of show a listing. Up top, you'll see the outgoing 2021 board leadership. We'll get to leadership questions and conversations later on in the agenda. But that middle section, the new board members, you'll see those folks' names that have an asterisk after it. They are the new folks this year that were not members last year. So welcome to you all, and thank you for taking the time out of your day and making the effort and wanting to be involved and participate in the Citizens Advisory Board. So just to start off with this very high level explanation of what Eastgate is. So we have a lot of designations. I think the one that gets thrown around probably more frequently is that we're an MPO, which is a Metropolitan Planning Organization. So that's more so on the transportation side. So that's all of the transportation planning and funding and infrastructure programs that we kind of facilitate and operate through our regular work. We interface with the Ohio Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration to both receive funds and also do some collaborative work in terms of finding best practices and putting together documents and recommendations for our local communities. So that really sets our scale at the regional level. So for that designation, we cover Mahjongn and Trumbull counties. It's really kind of guided by the urbanized area. So kind of that urban core that stretches along the Mahjongn River that we'll hear about a little bit later. But just as a very high level, that's what an MPO is. More the transportation side. We're also the regional wastewater management agency. So a lot of what Stephanie does is water quality based and focused around the 208 plan, which is kind of governs the wastewater prescriptions and language that sets the rules for how local communities can permit wastewater applications and installations of new wastewater features. So whether that's sewer lines or septic systems, anything that the counties or the cities have to abide by the 208 plan that Eastgate manages. There's a mapping component of that. You'll see the number 201 thrown around sometimes. Occasionally some resolutions will come before the board where there's some changes either to the language or to the maps themselves with regards to some of the boundaries for where kind of that wastewater development can occur. So the number 201 may come up, so that's all related to wastewater if you see that in the future. In addition to kind of the wastewater stuff, there is also just kind of general water quality improvement work. So that's kind of where the Mahjongn River project falls in, and Stephanie will talk a lot more about that coming up. And then kind of like our third side of the agency is economic development. So those of you who have interfaced with Kathy Zook or Mark Ragazine, Kathy works with the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is sometimes abbreviated as ARC. And Mark Ragazine is more the economic development side with working with the Economic Development Administration. So that's, there's a document called the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. that kind of sets the goals and the vision for that side of the agency. ARC has its own strategic plan and priorities that kind of guide those programs and that work that Kathy facilitates. Those are kind of the three primary areas at a very high level of what our agency does. We're kind of spread out a little bit, so we cover all of those areas, and the work looks a little bit different depending on which specific section the program is coming from, but ultimately that work is for all of the local communities. And it comes back to planning and being able to help our local communities make the best decisions that they can. So our agency, for the most part, makes recommendations. We don't necessarily make decisions for any of our local communities. That power rests entirely with kind of their own kind of priorities and the direction that they want to take their communities. And we just provide appropriate information to help them make the most responsible decision that they can. So that's kind of what the agency is. We'll take a step down to where we are here today, the Citizens Advisory Board, and talk a little bit about what the CAB does and what they're responsible for. So Eastgate has a board structure that consists of a few different components. So the top governing body of the agency is called the General Policy Board. They're the ones that make all of the actual decisions. Everything that the agency does goes through them and they approve. They have final say on nearly everything the agency makes an initiative to accomplish. Below the General Policy Board is the Technical Advisory Committee, which also met earlier today, and the Citizens Advisory Board. Who are you all in meeting here today? Both of those boards are advisory to the General Policy Board. So both of those boards will hear information, hear presentations from the staff and some of our partners. We'll also have the opportunity to review resolutions, which are typically actions of the agency, and be able to provide advisory support to the General Policy Board on how those groups feel that certain activities should be approached. So there are no resolutions on the agenda here today, but those will come up throughout the year. So I'll be sure to help you through that process once one of those comes up for you. But those are really the opportunity where the board can kind of provide their input. In addition to having presentations brought to you or interactive kind of input sessions, at these specific meetings, those resolutions are really critical because a lot of our staff will kind of look to these advisory committees to make sure that everything in those resolutions is correct and accurate and is proceeding as it should. So that's the opportunity to ask questions about specific things that are occurring within programs. So keep that in mind for the future meetings when some resolutions come up. And I'll be sure to cover this again if anybody has any questions when we get to that first resolution for the board to look at. But that's a lot of information, and it's really only so deep. I know there was a suggestion, I believe, last year to put together a board manual, and I've been working on that, not quite where I want it to be, but I do have the bones of that together, so I'll be getting that finalized and out to everyone as soon as it's finished, and that'll kind of fill in a lot of the details and kind of reiterate what I've covered there today.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for that expanded introduction of the agency. Stephanie, you want to give us an update on the Mahjongn River?
Sure. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Justin. Happy New Year, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces and some familiar names over in the participant section. And to those whom I have not met, it is nice to meet you for the first time. So as Justin explained, I'm the environmental program manager here at Eastgate, and one of my major roles has been not only working with the 208 plan, as Justin mentioned, is the sanitary sewer plan, but also with the revitalization of the Mahjongn River. So whether that is dam removal, stream restoration, or the revitalization of the entire corridor from just about Leavittsburg, or rather Newton Falls, all the way down into Lowville, down at the Ohio-PA state line. So that is our main focus. But for the dam removal specifically, we have been focused on those low head dams that have been in place from Canoe City, Leavittsburg, which is our uppermost region, reach of the Mahjongn River, where we focus our removal projects on, all the way down to where there once was one in Lowville. So if you haven't seen, or if you haven't heard the excitement around Lowville, I definitely encourage everyone to go and take a look at the newly revised area that Lowville has created, and beautiful project that took place beginning back in 2014, probably, when the mayor and John Kwolek, who was a former Ohio EPA employee, had a conversation about trying to revitalize the river and restore it, doing it locally rather than going through the Army Corps of Engineers and trying to continue that project that pretty much fizzled out back in 2013. So anyway, fast forward to 2021, actually 2020 is when the dam finally came out and the river right there was restored. So it looks completely different. You wouldn't even realize there was a dam in that area. And the mayor, Village of Lowville, has now a canoe library and some restroom facilities at the dam site, or the former dam site. So it's a pretty great accomplishment to see our region first and foremost get one accomplished dam out, as well as what I would say something to be most proud of is our regional approach to this, where one community is supporting the other community along that those miles stretch of the Mahjongn River from Leavittsburg all the way down to Lowville. So, I mean, that's something to applaud our region for, is working together and collaboratively to support one another. So I'll give a dam update before I get into our plan that we just had finalized here. It was our corridor revitalization / economic development study plan. So the dam removals, as I mentioned, Lowville is already out. It's been out since 2020, and gave you the presentation on that. Moving upstream, the city of Struthers, if you have seen it recently, it looks like the dam has been removed, but it actually has not. What the city of Struthers has done was, first and foremost, they went and got rid of the misfit of log jams that was behind the piers there at the city of Struthers. So they had to remove that large log jam. And then they started chipping away and removing those piers that were there that used to, I believe, support like a train trestle that would cross the river to one of the steel mills at the time. So now what you'll see is water flowing, but it's actually flowing over the dam. So the way the at the level the river is at right now, you're not really going to see the dam. So the next stage is to dredge the sediment, and that is all weather permitting when the consultant can actually get into the stream and go to those hot spots that were predetermined and remove that area of sediment that has the contamination, as well as dredge behind the dam. So that is always first and foremost before the dam is removed. That sediment is dredged. So once that is done, the sediment is dewatered and sent to, once it's dewatered, the water from that is sent to the nearby wastewater treatment plant where it's treated before put back into the river. And the sediment is used for daily cover at the local landfill. So it's been a win-win situation for a lot of entities across the board, both public and private. So then again, the next step would be finally deconstruction of the dam and stream restoration upstream of where the dam and downstream of where the dam used to be. City of Youngstown is still working to find sponsors for their dam project. Their project, as well as Struthers and Youngstown, have been funded through the Ohio EPA's Water Resource Restoration Sponsorship Program. And the most unique thing about that program is the sponsors come from anywhere in the state of Ohio. So these sponsors are entities who are applying to the Ohio EPA for infrastructure improvements, such as on wastewater treatment plants and other related infrastructure. So if they agree to sponsor a WRRSP project, then their interest rate for their loan from Ohio EPA gets decreased. So again, it's a win-win for them to find a sponsor within the state. So the city of Youngstown is currently seeking sponsors because they need to find at least $3 million worth of sponsorship funds. So those funds would be coming from the interest on those WPCLF loans. Moving upstream, the next dam. So the city of Youngstown has 3 dams. So moving into Trimble County, the next dams above Youngstown would be the Girard Dam, which is staying in place for now. The next one up that way would be Cleveland Cliffs, which used to be ArcelorMittal, and there's a dam right there. So the Girard Dam and the Cleveland Cliffs Dam, as we refer to them, are both being used by industries right now. So they draw water from the Mahjongn River for their cooling processes. So those dams are remaining in place. The next dam that is scheduled to be removed at some point in time, and that has been funded, is the City of Warren Summit Street Dam. So they are funded through the same Ohio EPA program, that WRRSP, and they are currently going to be seeking sponsors as well to fund the deconstruction and sediment and stream restoration project. Upstream, and the last and final dam on our list is the Canoe City Dam in Leavittsburg. Trumbull County Metro Parks owns that dam, and they applied to the Ohio EPA last year for the same funding, WRRSP, to remove their dam and perform stream restoration and sediment dredging behind there as well. So in a nutshell, that is the Mahjongn River dam removal and stream restoration projects. I'd be happy to take any questions if anyone has anything with regards to those, or we can wait till the end, and I can move on to the revitalization plan.
Yeah, I have a question regarding Leavittsburg.
Mm-hmm.
I saw last night they had a story that it's now been funded. WKBN reported that it's been funded. As you know, there's opposition to that dam being removed. In the last rendering that MS Consultants did, they actually showed it with rapids there, almost like they kept some of the dam and just created rapids. Is that something that is still on the table?
That would be a conversation to have with the Trumbull County Metro Parks and their consultant, because once they're funded, it's up to the owner of the dam and whomever they choose to do the design and engineering for the project. So that is when, at that time, you'll want to have those conversations with regards to the rapids in the Whitewater Park.
So talk to Zach.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, Stephanie.
Yes, Pete.
Okay. Obviously, you're going with your priorities, and your top priorities are to remove the intact dams, which present the greatest hazards to boaters. There is a dam at Lover's Lane on the Mahjongn River in Warren that has a notch cut into it. It's a broken dam. And it's very tricky to go through there in a canoe or a kayak. You have to know exactly where that notch is in order to go through. I'm wondering if down the road you would consider removing that broken dam and any other obstacles in the river that might be similar to that.
So Lover's Lane, I thought that was an ODOT mitigation project way back in 2000. Gosh, it had to be when I started, 2004 or 5. ODOT went in and used their mitigation dollars to kind of, lack of better terms, remove or move what was left of these remaining dams. And I thought Lover's Lane was one of them. And there was another one up in Trumbull County that they did. Oh gosh, I have the articles on my files here, but on my computer, I can't remember. But I'm thinking Lover's Lane was actually one of those dams that they went in and took their equipment and kind of moved the concrete and boulders around to create riffles. Maybe they notched it. I'd have to look at the details.
Well,
But
it's
those
notched.
ones,
It's
okay.
notched, and you have to find the notch and go through it accurately if you want to get through there in a kayak or a canoe.
Okay.
And maybe that should eventually be removed down the road, but it's not the first priority. The first priority would be the intact dams, of course. I want to commend you and everybody else at Eastgate for finally getting some action on these dam removals because it's something that's been talked about for 20 years, and only now are we getting action.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Yeah, so first and foremost, for Eastgate's standpoint, it's anything that we can do to improve water quality within our region. And those dams have been identified as causes and sources of impairment within the Mahjongn River whenever sampling has been taken within the dam pool reaches. And the reason why they're considered that is because they don't permit natural fish migration, and they, as we know, create those false pools because of the dam that's there. So it's pretty much a man-made pool. The deposition that has occurred not only behind the dam, but also behind, further behind it upstream, whenever you have that heavy deposition, it really does impair the macroinvertebrates from having their own home. So once these dams are removed, we're going to start reintroducing not only just natural stream flow, but natural habitat as well, and allowing for natural sediment transport and deposition. So you still have deposition, but not to the extent where it can't be naturally transported, which is what a stream should naturally do, is, kind of flush itself.
I have a question on the sediment dewatering over by the old Sheet and Tube, the Struthers Dam, and where it's the most polluted. What did they come up with were the heavy metals in that sediment?
So before the sediment is sent anywhere, it will be tested to make sure and to ensure that it is not hazardous. That's what they did in Lowville, and they will do that throughout the entire reaches, wherever they do the dredging and the dewatering. So they do have part of the consultant that is doing the dredging. They also have another, probably part of their contract is to do the sampling as well. But nothing is just taken and put into the landfill. I didn't mean to create that type of idea, but everything is tested before. Anything else before I move on? All right, so one of the other great products that Eastgate worked on since 2019 was a corridor revitalization and economic development study. And this this study was unique in the fact that for our region, it not only just focused on, it didn't focus on one area. It took into consideration the whole region of Newton Falls all the way down to the Ohio PA line, whereas the dam removal projects have specifically focused on where the Army Corps projects was from Leavittsburg to the state line. So we looked at the entire regional reach, Eastgate's reach of the Mahjongn River, and had this plan done over 2020. And part of the plan was also included stakeholder outreach and participation events. And those were held by MS Consultants, who was hired to produce this plan and work with the stakeholders. They were held at different places within the counties to get stakeholder inputs as far as their vision for their portion of the Mahjongn River, and at a greater scale, what their Mahjongn River looked like to them. So if it's okay, Justin, I'd like to go ahead and go to Eastgate's website and show everyone the final plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm giving you presenter privileges, so you're able to share your screen if you want.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, can everyone see Eastgate's website? Okay.
Yes.
So over in this little scrolling box that we usually have on our website, we have different programs or different ideas or plans that we like to highlight for Eastgate staff. So I believe it's the third dot over. Yes, it is. And you'll see this Mahjongn River Corridor Revitalization. And if you click on Read Here, it will bring up our plan. So this Mahjongn River Corridor Revitalization site is known as, in general, mymahjongnriver.com. This site was part of our contract with MS Consultants to create a pretty much one-stop shop for location for this plan, as well as anything else related to what we were working on with regards to this project. So you'll see here, there's a link for the final plan, which I can go through if you prefer, if you'd like. But one other thing I want to really highlight here are the community action plans. And what I liked about these was, even when we were going through the pandemic, MS Consultants was able to have these outdoor community outreach events where folks were able to come if they felt comfortable coming to these events and really talking to Shannon Fergus, who was our MS Consultant rep, and letting her know and her team know what they thought their section of the Mahjongn River could look like. And so the sky was the limit with some of these action plans. And it was really great to see some of the visions that came through. So I'm just going to pick on Leavittsburg. And you'll see here, you can scroll and there's a little overview section. I don't want to read it because I think everybody can see it, and I don't want to take away the surprises of what lies in this plan. But you'll see where you are within regards to the Mahjongn River corridor and some of the outcomes of what folks had wanted to see within their stretch of the park or of the river. So currently in Leavittsburg.
Excuse me, am I the only one who can't see the plan?
Can't see it.
Yeah, we're still seeing the Mahjongn River corridor page.
Okay, I wonder if I have to share that too.
Yeah, it may have opened in a different program.
That's probably it. All right. All right, let me go back here. Okay, we'll do it this way. Sorry about that. Okay, so everybody should have Leavittsburg up.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, my apologies. So again, it gives you an overview of the implementation toolkit. So these are some action items that can be implemented within your own reach of the Mahjongn River. You know, there's grant opportunities that can help fund some of these projects or some of these visions, but this is just some of the ideas that, like I said, came from the outreach events. So here's a legend of what is already existing. You'll see that there's some mixed land use, some retail, the park. So we take what we have now with so this is existing again, with what we think we'd like to see. And we, as in, you know, the stakeholders that were involved within this reach. So here we have the dam has been removed. For example, there's a pedestrian walkway connecting both sides of the Mahjongn River in Leavittsburg, and it looks like they even integrated this little whitewater area. So this is one of the visions that can be taken and placed into hopefully that design phase of the dam removal project. So this is definitely something to utilize and keep in your back pocket if you're looking to improve your region of the river. So just some ideas about bike trails, connecting walking trails. You have the existing launch, a new canoe launch identified once the dam has been removed. So just some, like I said, some general ideas of what you could see in that stretch. And it gives you a guide, provides you with some real information and steps on where to go and look for sources to help fund the projects. All right.
And I see in the chat, Tom Smith had said that the rendering that you had shown with that pedestrian walkway and the riffles was the rendering that he was referencing. So I think, like you said, it was just kind of a visioning, kind of an idea generating visualization, not necessarily a design at this stage.
Right, exactly. So these are some of the things. So if you're having community meetings with folks within the cities or townships that have the power withal to make any improvements, these are definitely some of the ideas that should or could come to fruition, given the fact that also within the plan, like I said, they've identified funding sources that the communities can go after to make things possible. So for example, ODNR can definitely be used for canoe launches, the restroom facilities, such as what the village of Lowville has done and the city of Struthers is going to do with, well, at least the canoe launch in Struthers, using ODNR funds to have something like that. So I could go through a couple more of the plans if folks want. If not, I can go over real quickly the larger final plan. Let me just share that real quick.
We see Youngstown's.
Yeah, absolutely.
You.
All right. So Youngstown. Are we seeing Youngstown? No? Jeez Louise. All right. I'll get it right one of these days. Okay. So here is Youngstown's. Again, this is your toolkit. Brief overview. What we're also looking to do is once we get more of these dams out, one of the main goals is to continue the water trail designation that was started up in Trumbull County by the Metro Parks, which was an awesome idea, and just expand it downstream and connect it to the Ohio PA line. So of course we're going to run into some of those dams that are still going to be in the river, but we still think that with the efforts that are being put forth in the amount of stream miles that will be free flowing, that the water trail designation would still be an asset for the Visitors Bureau and recreationists throughout the state, even within the region and throughout the country. So we talk about some existing conditions. You can see obviously the dams, where some existing launch sites are. So we have the West Avenue and B&O launch sites for paddlers. Existing bike trail, of course, through Mill Creek Metro Parks. One of the ideas later on in this plan was to develop a connector. So from Youngstown over to the Stavage Trail at some point in time. So you'll see that within this section of the toolkit. For economic purposes, they identify some economic zones where opportunities exist to expand upon businesses, create new businesses, economic development, you name it. All right, so here we go with some renderings. These are always good. So we have some river overlook areas, which this looks like to be the Market Street Gateway kind of. Although that doesn't look like the Market Street Bridge, so it's a new gateway. And some ideas, proposed ideas. Residential areas, some riverfront parks, bikeways, city bikeway. You can see a connector bikeway being proposed. So yeah, these were all ideas that came out of those workshops. Expanding upon the entertainment district. And if I'm not hitting the ideas that you want to hear about, please let me know. Definitely some proposed character, putting some new stuff into that region of Youngstown along the river, trying to make it more open where we can, even though we know we have the railroad lines. One is active. I don't know if the other one is, but the active railroad lines kind of pose a hindrance to actually getting a really good view of the river. So some outstretches here. So a lot of the partnerships also, when we talked about this outreach, also came from Metro Parks input, as well as, like I said, the citizens and cities, township trustees had input within their toolkit sections. So I think it got a pretty good mix of ideas. And then the implementation guide. So here again, some funding opportunities. So here's your shopping list of ideas, and here's where you can go and look for funding. So NatureWorks is a huge grant that ODNR offers with regards to canoe liveries, to playground equipment. I've seen it being used for that. Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Fund, that is one of the programs that we administer at Eastgate again. Yeah, here's some, it does list, every toolkit has funding opportunities listed. Multi-use connections. So some of the defined projects in the toolkits you will find, and offered off to the side, again, it offers some funding opportunities for community officials to look towards to help implement these projects. Are there any questions so far with what anyone is seeing?
I have a suggestion, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, down the road, when we get more federal funding available for electric vehicle charging stations, I'm wondering if we could install electric vehicle charging stations at some of these boat launches so people could charge their vehicles while they're out on the water. Of course, you probably have to accompany these with security cameras so they don't get vandalized. But that would be okay to have a security camera at the boat launch for both the charging station and the ramp itself. So I'm wondering what you think about electric vehicle charging stations at the Mahjongn River boat launch ramps.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't have them or make suggestions to the community leaders there, albeit the utilities are present, but I'm not sure what all goes into making sure, or requesting or trying to get them within that stretch of the river at those canoe launches. But yeah, certainly if it's something that the communities feel is valuable and that you would like to see there, I think an approach to the community leaders is good.
Now, I was going to say you have your utilities at the B&O, and you've got them, I believe, at the Lowellville site. They're close by and readily available. I'm talking about the electric supply for the charging stations. This is something that is used widely in the Pennsylvania state parks. A lot of them have, I think most or all of them now have electric vehicle charging stations at key Pennsylvania state park facilities, including McConnell's Mill and Moraine State Park and the Jennings Environmental Center. That could be a model for what we might do in the future.
Sure. I think when discussing this with officials, I think it's good to have a model and show them an example of something that could, either be scaled down to our region's level or, is equivalent to what our region would want. Mm-hmm. I see in the chat, Tom, you have a question about Gerard?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but one aspect of MS work was a hydrology or hydrologic study to see if McDonald Steel and Cleveland Cliffs could live without the dams.
Yes. So overall, this Eastgate received $2 million from ODNR's state, a line item in ODNR's budget back in fiscal year 2020. So part of a good chunk of that was to be used for a HECRAS model. So that's the hydrologic model that engineers will use to determine the flow before and after things such as dam removal is done. So it not only looks at just the flow, but other impacts on nearby infrastructure, such as roads and bridges within that reach. So One of the items that was done, as Tom alluded to, was that HECRES, the hydrologic model, and it helped provide a jumpstart to not only just those mills, but it also provided a jumpstart to the Levittsburg Dam removal project, because we had that section of any potential application completed. We knew we had a good idea as far as what the river was going to look like before and after dam removal. So that's something that we saved a little bit of, we saved the communities a little bit of cash on with regards to spending to have any of that type of work done. So yes, this hydrologic study was also used to see how dam removal would affect both the Cleveland Cliffs and the McDonald Steel Industries. And the basic model had revealed that it wouldn't impact them to the extent where they would go out of business. So the hydrologic model showed that where the water was with regards to their intake valves, there would be adequate enough river water to, for them to withdraw from and use in their processes.
Okay, because I thought I thought I had remembered it being reported that they would need some kind of pumping system that you guys were going to help them look for money for.
Yeah, so in the normal river flow, there might be, if I recall the study correctly, there might have been a call for the for a pump to be put into the river to help them get the quantity. Maybe I read the study wrong, but yes, there was an area within the plans to determine whether or not they needed pumps put into the river to help ensure that they were getting their adequate water for their processes.
And that leads to my question is, so are they agreeable to this idea? Are they still basically say, no, we need that dam?
Well, because they're the owners of the dam, it's up to them.
Right. Yeah.
So we have given them the information. We have provided this model, not just for them, but for the entire reach of the Trumbull County section of the Mahjongn River. So it wasn't just necessarily for them. It was to, like I said, really get a jump start on Levittsburg's dam. But yeah, it's pretty much up to them whether or not they want to keep or remove the dams. But we kind of gave them an idea of if Mother Nature were to take the dams out themselves, what they would need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, I think also they were, because when that study came out and you had representatives from Eastgate, you also had representatives on the Zoom call. The Port Authority was on it as well, Cleveland Cliffs and McDonald Steel and the Ohio EPA. They were also talking about lowering their intake.
Mm-hmm.
And in the immediate area of those pipes is to lower the riverbed. That was an option. That was an alternative on there. Is there state monies to do that, or any kind of angel funding for that?
I'm not aware of public dollars out there to assist private industries, so I'm not sure about that. But you're right, Kevin. You do bring up a good point that that plan did provide them with several alternatives in the event that they were going to remove their dam.
Because the Ohio EPA, when that part of the conversation occurred, the Ohio EPA was saying you take tens of millions of gallons of water out of the river every day. Why can't you just spend 100,000 or 125,000 estimated to do that themselves? And they were at that time saying, well, that should be up to the public to provide those dollars. So I don't know where that ever came. Whatever came of that.
I didn't bring it up, so I'm going to blame you, Kevin. So, but yeah, that's a great point because, when the Friends of Mahjongn River got started, we said we're not going to sit here and blame those steel mills that put all those pollutants into the river over the years. And one of the reasons being is they're dissolved for the most part. Well, McDonald Steel has been around for 100 years, and we're not asking for reparations, but maybe the least they can do is to find this pumping system for themselves so that we can have a free flowing river there. You know, that water is not theirs. That water falls from the sky.
Good point.
It's pretty amazing how much water they remove from that river every day. And when we took over the RG Steel property, we got 2 of the 3 pump stations, and we got the 2 smaller ones, but we have the capacity to move 17 million gallons daily out of that river. And the Cleveland Cliffs has a one that's much larger. They're around 28 million. Is that their capacity, that one pump house that they have? But they, you know, and I think Ohio EPA made a good point. You use all this water for free over a century. You could afford whatever the cost is to lower your intake pipes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to copy the link from Eastgate's website that has the hydraulic report. I'm going to put it in the chat. If anybody would like to access it, by all means, please. It is there for you to look through. I also put our mymahoninriver.com resources link a couple chats back. So this way you have access to that final plan document and you can look through it, because I probably didn't do it a grandeur justice, as well as the toolkit, so you can look through them all. But yeah, the one thing we did work with the steel mills was we not only had the consultant do just the general HECRAS model that the Army Corps of Engineers uses, but we also went further and ran the same type of model under apocalyptic terms, where we had the severest of severe droughts. So information, I don't know if that information is in that hydraulic study, but we did go above and beyond to help them create at least some sort of contingency plan for them. Because if the dams go out, then you would hope somebody has a contingency plan. But in the event that they don't, we pretty much gave them a good head start with this hydraulic study. So. Are there any other questions with regards to the river? I don't want to skip over anything if anybody has any questions. But if you want to talk more in detail, my contact information I can put on the chat box, or if that comes in at the end, Justin. But I'm more than happy to have a phone conversation with anyone, email conversation. Please just reach out.
All right, thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is our General Policy Board. As Justin mentioned, they meet quarterly. The first General Policy Board meeting of 2022 is in March, and at our February CAB meeting, we will queue up our representation to ensure that we have that we're adequately represented at that meeting. And so we'll do that next month. Justin, you have any comments on today's TAC meeting?
Yes, I do have a quick summary. I'll kind of run through some of the agenda items that were discussed earlier today. So the Technical Advisory Committee started off by nominating and electing their officers. The officers for the TAC are just chair and vice chair, and they remain the same as last year. So Gary Schaefer from the Trumbull County Engineers Office is the chair of the TAC, and Bob Durbin from the Mahoning County Engineers Office is the vice chair. After that, Kathy Zook gave an update on new federal Appalachian Regional Commission goals and county designations. So she provided some information on the new ARC strategic plan, which includes the program's goals and funding priorities for the upcoming program year, as well as provided information on the status and county designations for Ashtabula, Trumbull, and Mahjongn, and how that affects applications that are made to her programs. I then gave a summary of the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan development timeline. Very similar presentation that I made to this group back in September of last year, I believe, as well as the December General Policy Board. So really just going over the vision, goals, themes, and strategies that will influence that plan. After that, Grant Taylor gave an update on the bike and pedestrian plan development process, essentially sharing that the steering committee met with the planning team at Eastgate and discussed the vision and goals for that planning process, and also some information on public engagement and how that should be carried out. The public engagement was in the process of being planned and rolled out, but with the current state of the pandemic, we're kind of slow playing that. So there is a bit of a delay in when we'll be carrying out those planning sessions, but I will make sure everybody that's on the CAB list will receive information when the input opportunities are scheduled and available. And then lastly, to wrap up the TAC meeting, Murda gave an update on some transit programs. So she shared that Federal Transit Administration has 5310 funds, which are federal transportation dollars related to transit access. And Liberty Township and the city of Warren both received funding for projects that will improve pedestrian access to transit routes. She also shared that WRTA approved free fares through 2024, which makes them the first transit system in the state of Ohio to implement a fare-free system. Also covered the NeoRide project, which is the first regional multi-agency implementation for passengers to transfer between transit systems. So similar to how you would transfer between flights through an airline system, that will work the same way. And that team is currently applying for FTA funding, so federal funding to implement that system. So that project is in its application state. And lastly, she provided an update on the transit-oriented development project along Market Street that covers the extent from Federal Station in downtown Youngstown, along Market Street down to St. Elizabeth Hospital in Boardman. And that project looks for to create some recommendations and policy recommendations to improve transit service along that route. But that's a very quick overview summary of the TAC. And I think I saw some stuff in the chat popping up, so I'll see if there's any questions there. Yes, Sarah. So the ARC goals are available on Eastgate's website. I can actually maybe navigate to that real quickly. Under the Regional Planning tab, you'll see Appalachian Regional Commission. And then there's a bunch of just general information that you'll find on this specific program on this page. But you can see in this one section the 5 goals that ARC has. There's a link to the ARC website for more information, as well as the strategic plan if you're interested in more. And then also a bunch of other resource links, as well as the county economic status that she also referenced earlier today.
Our next item is our leadership for 2022. Justin, you want to explain your process on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we tried to keep this as simple as possible. So during the member application process, there was a question in there for folks seeking board membership if they were interested in leadership positions. So we started there, and then I made contact with everyone to just confirm their interest in those positions. And this is the slate of leadership candidates that we have this year. You'll see in item 5. So I want to take this time, since we are remote and we're not in person, and we can't really have
Show of hands.
Thorough, yeah, dialogue and a show of hands and a good vote. What I want to do with this is I want to allow each of these people to just take a minute or two to introduce themselves, so you're able to kind of put some familiarity behind a name, so you know who you're checking the box for. And then after the meeting, I will send an email with a survey link to the board members to approve these. The only one that will act a little differently is the Mahjongn County General Policy Board representatives. We select 2 representatives, one to act as a primary and one to act as an alternate should the primary not be available for a General Policy Board meeting. So what the board members will do for that specific category for the Mahjongn County one is pick your 2 top people, and we will let the numbers shake out. If there's a tie, we'll all work together with both of them to figure out who wants to be the primary and the alternate, and all will be good there. Additionally, you'll see Trumbull County. Genevieve was kind enough to step up and throw her hat in the ring to be a policy board representative. She's acted in that role for the past several years, so gracious to have her participation there. But if there are other members from Trumbull County that are interested in acting as a representative, we will kind of keep that seat open, and as kind of the year progresses, and someone's interested in stepping in and maybe being an alternate to Genevieve, you are more than welcome to take that spot. But yeah, I guess we could get started, and we'll just kind of go down this list in order. And just, if you're on the list, feel free to unmute and take a minute or two to introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, I'm Lynn Anderson. I'm the first one there, so that's why I'm talking. I've been very interested in joining this advisory committee because of our impending climate crisis that we have. My focus is environmental concerns and livability of a community. What we're facing right now is the need for, number 1, more trees to be planted everywhere. Number 2, the defense of our clean drinking water. We technically are going to be a sweet spot for people to relocate to, since we're below Lake Erie and we have a pretty good water source here if we keep it clean. There's going to be climate refugees coming from right inside the United States, as you saw the wildfires in Denver recently, and you remember California. You can see how the tornado disasters are moving into different areas, more populated areas, instead of good old tornado alley like Oklahoma, where there used to be nobody living. So we need to retain housing stock, rehabilitate housing stock, make our community very livable, more trees to catch the storm runoff and to give us all the benefits that trees give a community. I can go into that about the CO2 removal and the cleaning of the air. We just need to get together, all work together. I love working together with people. I hope that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Ray DiCarlo. I used to be a member back in early 06, 07 era, and I was actually the chairman of this board and for a couple years. My background is I was in the Navy and I worked for the IBM Corporation for 15 years and refocused and repurposed. I went back to college and got my bachelor's degree before I turned 50. Got my master's degree at the University of Akron in geography and planning. And I, in the 2000s, I've worked for the city of Youngstown, mostly as a zoning inspector. And I just, COVID, I sat in my butt last year and raised peppers. And I want to get more active in the community again and keep up with what's going on, with the transportation and the river and the everything Lynn talked about. I'm familiar with. I'm also, I think, very environmentally focused, and I'm also anti-sprawl. So if you're going to put exits out on the turnpike that cost $17 million that we're paying for and use twice a year when we go to the Pittsburgh airport, I'm not going to be for that. But other than that, I'm behind every. I went out to actually went out there last Saturday. I went through the roundabout on Matthews Road. I went through the roundabout at the 5 Points, and I went through the roundabout out there by the turnpike. And I had an enjoyable 20 minutes, but I used all of them at one time. So with that, I just want to get active, and if you guys want somebody that's semi-knowledgeable to vote for you, I will. That's all.
Thank you, Ray. Jesse, I'll go next. I'm Kevin Kern. I've been the chairman of this committee for the last 2 years. I've probably been on this committee for about 12 years. I grew up in Smoky Hollow. I was fortunate and unfortunate to go to St. Pat's on Oak Hill, which allowed me to, on the dry days, to walk about 40 minutes to school one way. And in the heyday of Youngstown, I was able to walk through downtown Youngstown. And as little brats, we were walking on every railroad track and sneaking into every steel mill around downtown. And it's just to see the revitalization of the downtown Youngstown area is a little nostalgic to myself. I went to Kent State. I got my poli-sci degree from Kent State. Then I went to YSU, got an accounting degree from YSU, got my first accounting job in Pittsburgh. While I was at Pittsburgh, I was doing my grad work at Carnegie Mellon. Then I came back to Youngstown, worked for the Auditor of State's office. I was a senior deputy auditor, 17 and a half years with that. And for the last almost 15 years, I've been the chief financial officer of the Western Reserve Port Authority, and we do a lot of development around. So one of my goals and some of our team's goals is to rehab some of the buildings that, again, I have a nostalgia for the downtown Youngstown and for the urban areas to see some of these buildings that have sat empty and vacant to be repurposed.
Hello, I guess I'll go next. Jacob Harver here. Sorry for my absence at the beginning of the meeting. I'm in the process of riding a bicycle from Miami to Key West, and I ran into some trouble along the way. But I'm down here. I'm glad, Kevin, that you mentioned historic buildings downtown. That's been one of my other things that I do is I have the Knox building downtown Youngstown. Originally started a place called Lemon Grove. Got the Knox building, former Woolworth, in 2012, and been rehabilitating that. I'm a partner with the Federal Restaurant on the first floor. Other than that, I am going to YSU. I will be graduating with my master's in American Studies in May, and I'm in the process of applying to PhD to schools to get my PhD, most likely Kent. And the main project I've been working on is advocating connecting the Stavage Bike Trail to the Portage County Hike and Bike Trail, which is how I started attending these meetings and learning about what Eastgate has been doing, kind of parallel to kind of like my investigation of it all, with MS Consultants drawing the line for the proposed Mahjongn River Greenway. And I really think that would be such a huge benefit to the area, transportation for residents, travel for people coming through, and it would have a huge economic impact. I've traveled a lot of the trails around America, and you just see what the trail actually means for the community it passes through. So that's my main passion, but also interested in history and urban planning in general. So appreciate your consideration.
All right, and I will go next. My name's Samantha Yanucci. So I currently serve as a general policy board representative for Mahjongn County right now. But just to give you a little background about myself, I already said my name is Samantha Yanucci. I have my master's degree in urban planning, and I serve as a local planning consultant. I think, the main thing that I could bring to the table is really just the understanding of how our transportation system, which is so much of what Eastgate does, affects quality of life here. And, you know, I agree with everything Lynn and Ray and Jacob were saying, as well as in terms of, you know, being anti-sprawl and just creating an environment that better supports the natural environment. I think that you know, over the past year, I've really gotten a good idea of how Eastgate works and a really good idea of how the General Policy Board works and even how it could be better and perform better and how we can really get together and make better decisions for this area. And I would really like to retain my position for the next year so I could just, you know, make more transformative change. All right, well, I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Hello, I am Genevieve Germanic, and I've been a member of the Citizens Advisory Board for about 12 years now. And I am a retired Army nurse. And when we moved here in 1998, I decided I wanted to get to know my community. So it took me a while to, you know, join various groups. I became a master gardener with the OSU Extension back in 2002. So this is my 20th year doing that. And I've always been concerned with the environment. And so I've tried to apply that in my own life. And I gained further knowledge, you know, being a master gardener. And I just like to hear what's cooking, so to speak. I like to know what's going to be happening in the community and have whatever input I can have or give, actually. And I find it very exciting to see. I know my son always says, Mom, don't call me a young person. But I love the energy that young people have and all the ideas and the enthusiasm. So I really take my hat off to all of you who are up and coming and have your energy and ideas and input. I really appreciate that. That's about it.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to introduce yourselves. Like I said, after the meeting, I will put together that survey and send it out to all the board members so they can make the decision on the leadership positions.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Resolutions for passage for the new members. When we return to normalcy, and we begin to meet in person, if we have any resolutions to review and to vote on, Justin will send those in advance, and we will discuss them at the meetings and vote on them there. Now that we're virtual, what we'll do is, if there's any resolutions, we'll discuss them at the meeting, and then Justin will send out emails so that we can vote on them. But for this month, we do not have any resolutions. And then this is the announcements. We'll open this up to our membership. If anybody has announcements of anything going on in the community that'll be of interest to our membership. And please unmute yourself. Not having any questions or comments? Here none. Justin, do you have any parting comments?
Other than for everyone that's kind of newer, I will send out a meeting summary. Used to call them minutes, but I think they're a little less formal than maybe most minutes. So I will send that out so that everybody has kind of a record of what we've discussed here today. You can take a look at those and make sure everything's in there. I'll also include links. So like during Stephanie's presentation, she mentioned a couple different reports and things. There will be clickable links in there that'll take you direct to that, as well as kind of the summary from the TAC. So you'll have all of that information as well. So try to make it easy for everybody to have access to the information that happened at these meetings, even if you know, you're not able to attend live while they're occurring, you could still go back after the fact and keep caught up. So that's all I have.
All right, so our next meeting is February 3rd. At that time, we'll have our director, Jim Kinnick, give us a little overview of 2020 and where the agency is going in the future. All right, everybody, that concludes our meeting, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.